Jay stood at the back of the auction hall and watched the aliens bid on broken ships. The hall was huge, carved into an asteroid at the edge of known space. Strange lights floated near the ceiling. The air smelled like metal and old things. He was the only human in the room. This was normal. Humans were new to space travel. They had only been among the stars for 300 years. The other races had been here for thousands, some for millions. They looked at humans the way adults look at children playing grown-up games. Jay did not care what they thought. He had work to do. The Veloci Consortium ran this auction. They were tall beings with silver skin and 4 arms. They controlled most of the trade in the galaxy. When old ships were found drifting in space, the consortium collected them and sold them here. Jay bought these ships, took them apart, and sold the pieces. It was not a great living, but it was honest. His father had started this business. Now his father was dead, and Jay ran it alone. Well, not completely alone. He had Hannah. Hannah was waiting back at their station. She was his partner, and the only person he trusted completely. She used to be a military engineer before something bad happened. She never talked about it. Jay never asked. Some things were better left in the dark. The auctioneer, a Veloci with golden markings on its skin, called out the next lot. Lot 7749. Origin unknown. Pre-consortium era. Non-functional. Starting bid at 100 credits. Jay looked up from his datapad. Pre-consortium era? That meant old. Very old. The consortium had controlled galactic trade for over 50,000 years. Anything from before that time was rare. He pushed through the crowd of aliens to get a better look. On the platform sat a ship covered in dust and grime. It was not large, maybe twice the size of his own vessel. The design was strange. The lines were smooth and flowing, like water frozen in metal. He had never seen anything like it. The other buyers showed no interest. A few of them laughed. One of the Veloci officials was already preparing to move to the next item. 100 credits, Jay called out. The room went quiet. Several aliens turned to look at him. He saw amusement in their eyes. The foolish human buying worthless junk. 100 credits to the Terran, the auctioneer said. Any other bids? Silence. Sold. Jay smiled to himself. He did not know why, but something about that ship called to him. His father used to say that good traders had instincts. Maybe this was what he meant. It took him 3 days to tow the old cruiser back to his station. The ship had no power. Its engines were dead. The hull was covered in strange symbols that no translator could read. By all logic, it was worthless. Hannah was waiting for him when he docked. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She looked at the cruiser through the viewport and shook her head. You spent our savings on that? She asked. All of it, Jay admitted. Have you lost your mind? Probably. Hannah sighed. She had known Jay for 2 years now. She knew that arguing with him was pointless once he made a decision. Fine. Let us at least see what you bought. They put on their suits and crossed to the old ship. The airlock was stuck, so Hannah cut through it with a plasma torch. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. Emergency systems must have kept the atmosphere sealed for all these years. The corridors were dark. Their helmet lights cut through the blackness. Dust floated around them like tiny stars. Every surface was covered with those strange symbols. They seemed to glow faintly, just at the edge of vision. This ship is old, Hannah whispered. Really old. I have never seen this design before. It does not match any known civilization. Jay ran his gloved hand along the wall. The metal felt warm, which was strange. The ship had been drifting in cold space for who knows how long. It should be frozen. They found the bridge at the center of the vessel. It was circular, with a single chair facing a curved wall of dead screens. Consoles lined the edges. Everything was covered in dust. Jay walked to the main console and wiped away the grime. Beneath it, he saw more symbols. He leaned closer to study them. His hand slipped. A sharp edge cut through his glove and into his palm. "Careful!" Hannah rushed toward him. Blood dripped onto the console. Red drops falling on ancient metal. The ship woke up. Light exploded around them. The screens came alive. The symbols on the walls began to glow bright blue. A deep hum filled the air as power flowed through systems that had been dead for longer than human civilization had existed. Jay stumbled backward. His heart was racing. This was impossible. There was no power source. The engines were dead. But the ship was alive. A voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It was soft, feminine, and somehow sad. Genetic signature recognized. Successor species confirmed. "Welcome, child of Earth. I've been waiting for you for 900,000 years." Jay looked at Hannah. She looked back at him. Neither of them could speak. In that moment, in that forgotten ship at the edge of known space, the future of humanity changed forever. And Kang Jay, a simple junk trader with empty pockets and a bleeding hand, stood at the center of it all. He had bought a piece of forgotten history. But what he had found was something far greater. That he had found humanity's destiny. The ship was alive. Jay could feel it breathing around him. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The air hummed with energy. After 900,000 years of sleep, the vessel had awakened. "Who are you?" Jay asked the empty air. His voice was shaking. "What is this place?" The voice answered from the walls themselves. "I am Arya. I am the guide and keeper of this vessel. My full designation is Architect Repository Intelligence Assistant. I have waited in darkness for longer than your species has existed." Hannah grabbed Jay's arm. "We should leave. Now." "Wait." Jay pulled free. His bleeding hand had stopped hurting. In fact, it had stopped bleeding entirely. When he looked down, the cut was already healing. "I need to understand. What did you call me? Successor species?" "You are human," Arya said. "The 12th and final creation of the architects. The last of the successor species. The inheritors of all that was left behind. The architects." Hannah stepped forward. Her fear was giving way to curiosity. She was an engineer. Mysteries called to her like songs. I have heard that name before. In old stories. The first civilization. But they are just legends. I'm not a legend. The walls pulsed with light. The architects were real. They were the first beings to achieve consciousness in this galaxy. They rose when the stars were young. They explored. They learned. They created. And when they saw that the universe was empty, they decided to fill it with life. Jay sat down in the central chair. It molded itself to his body as if it had been made for him. Perhaps, in a way, it had been. They seeded life across the galaxy, Arya continued. They engineered worlds. They guided evolution. Every intelligent species that exists today, every civilization that reaches for the stars, owes its existence to the work of the architects. Including humans, Jay said. It was not a question. Especially humans. You were their final project. Their last hope. When the architects knew their time was ending, they created humanity to inherit everything they had built. Your DNA contains keys that can unlock architect technology. Your minds can interface with systems that reject all other species. You are special, Kanjay. Not because of what you have done, but because of what you are. Hannah was studying the consoles. Her trained eyes moved across the displays. This technology is beyond anything I have ever seen. The power systems alone could revolutionize our civilization. This is only the beginning, Arya said. This vessel is called the last hymn of dawn. It was built to carry a message across time itself. Inside me are coordinates to the architect repository, a place where the full legacy of the first civilization waits. Knowledge, technology, weapons, everything humanity needs to take its rightful place among the stars. Jay felt dizzy. Yesterday, he had been a struggling junk trader. Now he was being told that his entire species was created for some grand purpose. It was too much. Why now? He asked. Why wake up for me? There are 8 billion humans in the galaxy. Why am I the one sitting in this chair? Because you were the one who found me. Because you are the one whose blood touched my systems. Because sometimes destiny chooses the humble over the proud. The architects understood this. That is why they made humanity the way they are. Not proud or powerful, but curious, stubborn, willing to hope when hope seems foolish. Outside the ship, Jay's datapad began to beep. Hannah picked it up and read the screen. Her face went pale. We have a problem. This ship sent out a signal when it woke up. A very strong signal. Half the galaxy must have heard it. Arya's voice turned serious. I am sorry. The awakening sequence could not be stopped once it began. But this means you must hurry. Others will come. The Veloci Consortium has long sought architect relics. They will send ships. And there are worse things than the Consortium in this galaxy. Worse things? Jay asked. The Dominion of Krath, a warrior empire that conquers and enslaves. They have searched for architect technology for centuries. If they learn what you have found, they will come with their full fleet. They will kill you and take this ship. And they will use what they find to burn your homeworld to ash. A new message appeared on Hannah's datapad. It was from Admiral Day, a human military officer stationed 3 systems away. He had intercepted Consortium communications about something called the human anomaly. He wanted answers. Jay looked at the message, then at Hannah, then at the glowing walls around him. 12 hours ago, his biggest worry had been paying his fuel bills. Now the fate of his entire species might rest on his shoulders. Arya, he said slowly, if we go to this repository, what will we find there? Salvation or destruction? It depends on the choices you make. The architects left humanity their tools, but they could not predict how those tools would be used. The repository contains the power to make humans the dominant species in the galaxy. It also contains knowledge that could tear your civilization apart if you are not ready for it. And if we do nothing? If we hide this ship and pretend we never found it? Then humanity will remain what it has always been. A minor species tolerated but ignored. And when the great darkness comes, as it always does, your people will be swept away like dust in the wind. What darkness? Hannah demanded that Arya was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was heavy with ancient sorrow. There is something else the architects left behind. A warning. The galaxy faces a threat that returns in cycles, a wave of destruction that wipes away all life. The last time it came was 900,000 years ago. The architects built defenses against it. But those defenses require activation. Without the keys that humans carry, the shields will stay dormant. And the next cycle is coming soon. Jay stood up. His legs were steady now. The fear was still there, but something stronger had taken its place. Call it duty. Call it destiny. Call it the stubborn human refusal to accept impossible odds. Then we do not have a choice, he said. We go to the repository. We find out what the architects left for us. And we save our people. Hannah nodded slowly. I always knew following you would get me killed someday. Might as well make it interesting. And in that moment, the forgotten cruiser that had slept for nearly 1,000,000 years began to truly live again. Its engines powered up. Its shields activated. Its weapons came online for the first time since before humanity learned to use fire. The last hymn of dawn was ready to fly. And humanity's destiny was about to begin. The galaxy was burning with rumors. In every space station and colony, in every alien court and human outpost, beings spoke in whispers about what had been found. A human had awakened an architect's ship. A human had been chosen. The youngest species in the galaxy carried the keys to the oldest power. Fear spread like fire on Earth. In the Great Hall of the United Government, Director Yoon Soo watched the holographic messages pile up. Demands from the Veloci Consortium. Threats from the Krath Dominion. Worried pleas from a dozen allied species. Everyone wanted something from humanity now. She was 53 years old. Her hair was gray. Her eyes were cold. She had spent her entire life preparing humanity to survive in a galaxy that did not respect them. Now everything had changed in a single day. Director, her assistant said, the consortium is demanding we surrender the cruiser and its occupants. They say it is stolen property. It was sold legally at their own auction, Yinsu replied. They have no claim. They say the auction was a mistake. They want the ship returned. They are threatening sanctions. Let them threaten. Yunsu stood and walked to the window. Below her, the city of New Seoul stretched to the horizon. 20 million humans lived in this city alone. 8 billion lived across the galaxy. All of them were now potential targets. She made her decision. Contact Tong Jae. Tell him Earth stands behind him. Tell him to do what must be done. Far away at the salvage station, Jay received the message. He read it twice to make sure he understood. Then he looked at Hana. Earth is with us, he said. That is good, Hana replied, because we are going to need all the help we can get. She pointed at the sensor display. 12 ships had just entered the system. They were not human. Their designs were brutal and angular, built for war. The Krath Dominion had arrived. They are hailing us, Arya announced. The main screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human. The being had gray skin, 4 eyes, and teeth like knives. This was a Krath warrior, a member of the species that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Humans, the Krath said. His voice was like stones grinding together. I am Warlord Veth. You have something that belongs to us. Surrender the architect vessel, and we will let you live. Jay stepped forward. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. This ship does not belong to you. It belongs to humanity. It always has. Veth laughed. It was an ugly sound. You are children playing with fire. You do not understand what you have found. The architects left power in that ship. Power that the Krath will use to rule this galaxy. Give it to us or we will take it from your dead bodies. The answer is no. The Krath's eyes narrowed. Then you choose death. Prepare to be boarded. The screen went dark. A moment later, the Krath ships began their attack. The station shook as weapons fire struck the shields. Alarms screamed. Jay grabbed the console to keep his balance. Arya, can we fight? The last hymn of dawn has been dormant for 900,000 years. Its systems are online, but I cannot guarantee full functionality. Can we try? We can try. Jay ran for the airlock. Hannah followed. They crossed to the cruiser as explosions lit up the space around them. The Krath were not playing games. They wanted this ship, and they would destroy everything else to get it. Inside the cruiser, Jay threw himself into the captain's chair. The controls lit up at his touch. He did not know how to fly this ship. He did not know how to fight with it. But somehow, deep in his bones, he felt that the ship knew him. Arya, engage the enemy. The last hymn of dawn surged forward. It moved like nothing Jay had ever seen, fast and smooth, like a blade cutting through water. The Krath ships turned to intercept, firing their weapons. The ancient cruiser's shields held. Then the cruiser fired back. Blue light erupted from its weapons. The first craft ship exploded. Then the second. Then the third. The power was unbelievable. Each shot carried the energy of a small star. The craft fleet, which had conquered entire civilizations, was being torn apart by a single vessel. Warlord Veth's ship tried to flee. It did not escape. A beam of light caught it and tore it in half. In less than 3 minutes, the entire craft strike force was destroyed. Silence fell over the bridge. Jay was shaking. He had just killed hundreds of beings. He had just started a war. There was no going back now. Jay. Hannah's voice was soft. Look, on the sensors, more ships were arriving. But these were not enemies. They were human vessels, a small fleet led by Admiral Day. They had come to help. The Admiral's face appeared on screen. He was an older man with a scarred face and tired eyes. He looked at the wreckage of the craft fleet and shook his head. I came to save you, he said. It seems you did not need saving. Admiral, we need to leave, Jay said. This is just the beginning. The consortium and the craft will send more ships. We need to reach the architect repository before they catch us. The repository? The Admiral's eyes went wide. It is real? It is real. And it is the only hope humanity has. Admiral Day was silent for a moment. Then he nodded. My fleet will escort you as far as we can. Earth has given orders. We are to help you at any cost. Behind them, the remains of the craft ships drifted in the void. Ahead of them, the stars waited. Somewhere out there was a place that held the secrets of the first civilization. A place that could make humanity great or destroy them completely. Jay set the course. The last hymn of dawn jumped into hyperspace, and the small human fleet followed. The inheritance war had begun. And Kang Jay, the junk trader who had bought a forgotten cruiser, was leading his species into the unknown. There was no turning back now. The journey to the repository would take 3 weeks. 3 weeks of jumping through hostile space. 3 weeks of running from enemies on all sides. 3 weeks of hoping they would survive. On the third day, they picked up 2 new passengers. Dr. Bay Mira was a Zen archaeologist. She had spent her entire life studying architect myths and legends. When she heard what Jay had found, she left everything behind and demanded to join the mission. She was 60 years old, small and thin, with wild gray hair and eyes that never stopped moving. She looked at the cruiser like a child seeing a miracle. I always believed, she whispered as she walked the corridors. I always knew the stories were true. And now I am here. I am actually here. The other new member was a pilot named Tay. He was young, barely 25, with messy black hair and a constant smile. Admiral Day had sent him because he was the best pilot in the fleet. He had a habit of making jokes at the worst possible times. So, Tay said as he took the secondary controls, we are flying an ancient alien ship to find an ancient alien base while the entire galaxy tries to kill us. This is exactly how I wanted to spend my vacation. Hannah rolled her eyes. Do you ever stop talking? Only when I am sleeping. And sometimes not even then. Despite his jokes, Tay was good at his job. When craft patrol ships appeared on the edge of their sensors, he helped Jay navigate through asteroid fields and nebulas to escape. When consortium vessels blocked their path, he found alternative routes. The boy had talent. On the 10th day, Arya shared something important. There is more you need to know about the architects, she said. They did not create only one successor species. They created 12. Dr. Myra leaned forward. 12? Where are the others? Most are extinct. Some evolved beyond recognition. Their genetic keys are incomplete or corrupted. Of all the successor species, Only humanity retained the full sequence needed to access the central repository. Why us? Jay asked. Because you were the last. The architects learned from each previous attempt. They made improvements. By the time they created humanity, they had perfected the design. You are simple creatures compared to some of their other creations. Less physically powerful. Shorter lived. But your minds are flexible. You adapt. You survive. That is what the architects valued above all else. Tay whistled. So we are the final version of a million-year experiment. No pressure. There is more, Arya continued. The Veloci Consortium knows about the successor species. They have spent millennia collecting genetic samples from the extinct races. They have been trying to create their own key. Have they succeeded? Hannah asked. Unknown. But I detected consortium ships on an intercept course. They are not following us directly. They are heading for the repository by a different path. I believe they have their own map. This was bad news. If the consortium reached the repository first, they might find a way to lock humanity out. Or worse, they might activate the ancient defenses and destroy everything. On the 15th day, they reached the hollow expanse. It was a region of space that every species avoided. Ships that entered never returned. No signals came out. Stellar maps simply labeled it with a warning. Do not enter. The standard route to the repository is blocked, Arya announced. A coalition fleet of 6 species has formed a blockade. They will not let us pass. 6 species? Jay stared at the sensor data. Hundreds of ships waited ahead. They are working together to stop us. Fear makes strange allies. They've decided that humanity must not reach the repository. They would rather destroy you than let you claim the architect inheritance. Dr. Myra was studying the old map she had brought aboard. Her eyes suddenly went wide. Wait, I have seen this before. In the oldest texts, there are references to a safe passage, a route that only the architects knew. She pointed at the hollow expanse. Through there? Through the death zone? Tay laughed nervously. The place where ships disappear forever? It is not a natural phenomenon, Arya said slowly. Dr. Myra is correct. The hollow expanse is an architect defense system. It destroys any vessel that enters without proper authorization. And we have authorization? Hannah asked. You are human. You carry the key in your blood. The system should recognize you. Should? Jay did not like that word. I am 900,000 years old. Kang Jay. Some things are uncertain. They voted. It was not really a choice. The blockade ahead would destroy them. The expanse might destroy them. But at least with the expanse, there was a chance. The last hymn of dawn entered the hollow expanse. At first, nothing happened. The stars looked the same. The ship flew smoothly. Tay made a joke about the legends being exaggerated. Then the darkness came alive. Shapes emerged from the void. They were not ships. They were something else entirely. Massive constructs made of light and shadow, moving with purpose. They surrounded the cruiser. They scanned it. They touched the hull with tendrils of energy. Everyone held their breath. The constructs paused. Then, slowly, they pulled away. A path opened through the darkness. The shapes watched as the cruiser passed, like ancient guardians examining a long-lost child. Behind them, the coalition fleet tried to follow. The constructs did not pull away for them. Jay watched on the sensors as ship after ship was taken apart. No explosions. No weapons fire. The vessels simply came apart like toys in the hands of a giant. In 20 minutes, the entire fleet was gone. The architects really did not want visitors, Tay said quietly. No one laughed this time. On the other side of the expanse, they found their destination. The architect repository hung in the corona of a dying star. It was vast. A structure the size of a small moon, built from materials that did not exist in any database. It glowed with inner light, beautiful and terrifying. But they were not alone. A single ship waited there. It was the Consortium flagship. Somehow, the Veloci had found another way, and J looked at the repository. He looked at the enemy ship. He took a deep breath. "We have come too far to stop now," he said. "Take us in." The last hymn of dawn descended toward the ancient structure. Whatever waited inside would determine the future of humanity. There was no turning back. The repository was larger on the inside than it appeared from space. Jay walked through halls that stretched beyond sight. Machines hummed with power that had not faded in a million years. The walls showed images of worlds and species that had risen and fallen while these chambers waited in silence. Dr. Myra wept as she walked. "All of history," she whispered. "Everything the architects learned. Everything they built. It is all here." Arya guided them deeper. "The central core is ahead. That is where the interface lies. That is where the choice must be made." "What choice?" Hannah asked. "The architects did not just leave knowledge here. They left a warning. The galaxy faces a cycle of destruction. A wave of dark energy from the galactic core that wipes away all life. It happens every million years. The last occurrence was 900,000 years ago." Jay stopped walking. "You mean it is coming soon?" "Within the next decade. The architects built a shield network to protect the galaxy. Pylons hidden on thousands of worlds, waiting to be activated. But the shields require a key. A living key. A human," Jay said. "Yes, a human must interface with the core to activate the shields. But the process is dangerous. The core was designed for architect minds. A human might not survive the connection." Before Jay could respond, lights flashed ahead. Weapons fire. The Consortium was already here. They ran. The corridors twisted and turned. Finally, they emerged into the central chamber. It was vast. A dome of pure light hung overhead. In the center, a pillar of crystal rose from the floor. This was the core, the heart of everything the architects had built. And standing before it was Elder Prime Volshin, leader of the Veloci Consortium. He was ancient. His silver skin had faded to gray. His forearms moved slowly, but his eyes were sharp and cold. Behind him stood a dozen Consortium soldiers. "Ah," Volshin said. "The humans have arrived. I wondered if you would make it." Jay raised his weapon. "Step away from the core." Volshin laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was almost sad. "You do not understand, child. I have spent 300 years searching for this place. The Veloci were not always merchants. Once we were servants of the architects. We tended their gardens. We cleaned their halls. We were nothing but tools to them. And when they left, they gave their legacy not to us, but to you. A species that did not even exist yet." "I am sorry for your pain," Jay said. "But I cannot let you take what is here." "Take it?" "I do not want to take it. I want to use it. I have spent centuries gathering genetic samples from the dead successor species. I have built a synthetic key." Volshin held up a small device. "With this, I can interface with the core. I can control the shield network. I can decide who lives and who dies when the dark wave comes." He turned to the core and pressed the device against its surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal flashed red. Volshin screamed. Energy tore through him, ripping him apart from the inside. His soldiers tried to run, but the core's defenses had awakened. Lightning filled the chamber. In seconds, the Consortium forces were destroyed. Jay watched in horror as Volshin's body fell. The synthetic key clattered on the floor, broken and useless. "The core rejected him," Arya said quietly. The architects built their systems to know the difference between real and false. Only a true successor can interface with the core. The chamber fell silent. The core pulsed with waiting light. Everyone looked at Jay. He walked forward slowly. His footsteps echoed in the vast space. He thought about his father. He thought about Hannah and Dr. Mira and Tay. He thought about the 8 billion humans scattered across the stars. He thought about all the species that would die if the shields were not activated. He was just a junk trader. A man who bought broken things and sold the pieces. He was not a hero. He was not special. But sometimes, destiny did not care what you thought about yourself. He placed his hand on the core. Light exploded. His mind expanded. He felt everything at once. The entire galaxy opened before him. Every star, every world, every life form, from the smallest microbe to the largest starship. He saw it all, felt it all, knew it all, and he saw the darkness coming. A wave of destruction rolling toward the galaxy, like a slow tide, inevitable, unstoppable. Unless the shields activated, he saw the pylons waiting on thousands of worlds. Ancient machines covered in dust and moss. He reached for them with his mind. He felt them respond. One by one, across the entire galaxy, the architect's shields came online. Blue light erupted from hidden places. Barriers formed in the void. A network of protection wove itself across space, ready to stand against the darkness. The core released him. Jay fell backward. Hannah caught him before he hit the ground. Jay! Jay, can you hear me? He opened his eyes. His head was pounding. His body felt weak. But he was alive. Did it work? He whispered. Arya's voice filled the chamber. The shield network is fully activated. 93,000 pylons across the galaxy are online. The dark wave will be stopped. All life will be protected. Dr. Myra was crying again, but this time she was smiling. You did it. You actually did it. Tay helped Jay to his feet. I never doubted you for a second. Well, maybe 1 second. Okay, several seconds. But still, Jay looked at the core. It still glowed, but softer now. Patient. Arya explained that the repository would remain open to humanity. The knowledge inside would be unlocked gradually as humans grew ready for it. This was not an ending. It was a beginning. On Earth, Director Yun Su received the news. She walked to her window and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, a junk trader had saved the galaxy. She smiled for the first time in years. The elder races watched in silence. The beings who had dismissed humanity as children, who had laughed at their ambitions, now saw the truth. The youngest species had become the guardians of all life. Months later, Jay stood on the bridge of the last hymn of dawn. Hannah was at his side. Tay was at the controls. Dr. Myra was studying new data from another hidden architect's site. Arya, Jay said, how many more sites are there? 732 confirmed. Possibly more. He smiled. Then we have work to do. The ship jumped into hyperspace. Behind it, Earth glowed blue and green in the starlight. Ahead, the unknown waited. Kang Jay had bought a forgotten cruiser. He had awakened a sleeping ship. He had found his people's destiny dot, and now he was going to explore it. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer a minor species at the edges of space. They were the inheritors of the architects, the keepers of the shields, the guardians of all life, and they were just getting started.